Good morning, traders. It is Thursday, the 16th of April, 2015, 8 a.m. Chicago time. Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. My personal opinions, market data, and recommendations subject to change without notice. Past performance is not indicative of future results. I'm sure many of you can recite that disclaimer blindfolded by now, but it is required. A quick look at the overnight news, several important earnings releases and so on. Let's look. All right, European equities are in negative territory. German 10 and 30-year yields print fresh record lows. The 10-year yield on the Bund is below 0.1%. This is likely due to jitters as a result of Greek officials meeting with the IMF today in Washington. There have been some comments from the Greek finance minister. There's a suspicion that Greece is not going to be able to make the next payment. Iraqi oil minister Mehdi stating that oil exports should reach a record 3.1 million barrels per day in April as output from the country's southern fields stays strong and weather conditions improve. We'll go over oil in a bit. But you can see that the market took back that spike up yesterday. Philip Morris reported $1.16 versus $1.02, 6.62 billion in revenue versus 6.26, so they did better. Goldman Sachs blew out its estimates, $5.94 versus $4.18, 10.6 billion versus 9.3 billion in revenue. And then Citigroup came in at $1.52 versus $1.40, 19.8 billion, a little bit below the estimated revenue of 20 billion. Initial jobless claims came in at 294,000 versus 280,000, so slightly worse. Continuing claims 2.268 million versus 2.32 million estimated, slightly better. And March housing starts came in lower at 926,000 versus 1.04 million. Building permits 1.04 million versus 1.08 million. And then finally, just be aware that Amex reports after the close today. Looking ahead for economic releases, 9 o'clock, just a half hour after the open, 9 o'clock Central, U.S. Philly Fed looking for 6 as the consensus estimate. We have EIA natural gas at 9:30, and then we have a whole bunch of speakers. Constancio is speaking today, right now in Washington, started just 4 minutes ago. And it looks like the German finance minister, Schäuble, at 11:30 Central speaks on Eurozone at crossroads regarding key economic policy issues in Germany and Europe. Germany being the key European country that's confronting Greece. At noon, the Greek finance minister speaks on the Greek economy and its global partners. Also at noon, we have Fed's Lockhart, a voting dove, speaks on economic outlook in West Palm Beach. At 12:10 Central, we have Fed's Mester, non-voting hawk, soft hawk, speaks on economy and monetary policy in New York. And then at 12:30, we have U.S. Fed's Rosengren, non-voting dove, to speak at Chatham House in London. And then finally, at 2 Central, 3 Eastern, we have Fed's Fisher, a voting soft dove, and ECB's Payette, a neutral ECB rep, speaking on inflation panel in the IMF in Washington. So based on that, tons and tons and tons of noise today from these talking heads. So we'll see how that plays out. But for now, let's look at the technical picture. Let's start out by looking at what we have done overall. So this is playing out as expected here. We're coming back to that 2107, which was the lower high we put in after the all-time high at 21.10 and a quarter. I have reduced this micro composite just to see what we have within this last swing low and the return. We could see here that on Tuesday we opened into the upper high volume node, or the upper acceptance zone. We dipped down into it, and then we pushed higher and closed near highs with a weak high. I talked about this in yesterday's Trader Bite, that we expect continuation higher, target 2103. And then yesterday we opened in a gap and then pushed higher up to 2105.50, and then pulled back to hold the upper zone. So 2107 is still being threatened. Let's see. I guess charts are not showing. Oh, oops, sorry. Thanks, guys. This is basically showing that the market's attacking this 2107. We have somewhat of a weak high now. That if we include yesterday's action, we basically have what looks like a weak high and a double top. If I include the day before the 2107 with this high at 2106.50. No charts. This is odd. All right. Let's reset. All right. Do you see a chart now? Do you see this chart? All right. Okay. So back to what the market's doing. So we have what looks like a weak high here. Again, I've been talking about this 2110 quarter being vulnerable, and the likelihood is that we would push through to the 2120 and 2123 above. We've been in balance for quite some time here, since the 13th of February, and if you look at the profile since then, you would see that this profile is skewed on the upside. You could see that it's quite heavy on the upper end of it, and that basically gives us the idea that there's quite a bit of volume here that's likely to dissipate as we push through. So 2120, as I said a few weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, as I said when we were back here, if you're short, consider some options or something, because the market's geared for a run up, and here we are. We have what looks like a W formation with a pivot at about 2107, 2108. So be cautious there. Overnight, and then let's look at yesterday. Again, we got an open auction out of range yesterday. Why is this down here? An open auction out of range, and the market basically broke on the higher side. We did not have any responsive selling. Did not see any responsive selling. We expected some responsive selling once we got to this 98.50 area. Expected a rotation down into 92 for a base, and then a push to 2103, which was this naked point of control. We did not get any of that yesterday, so we left a gap behind, which means we have some weak structure to build on. The overnight low is just 2 ticks below the naked point of control here. Market's currently trading 2093.50. So overall, what this looks like, here we go. We reopen, push up to within a tick of that 2103 again, and then we fall off with the European market, and we have what looks like a lot of volume on the downside. So my expectation this morning, the primary hypothesis this morning, is a responsive buy back in towards that 2098, 2099, but I do expect the market to chop in here and then to rotate down and tackle this 2089 overnight low. We'll see how that works out. That's my primary hypothesis. Almost equally as prevalent is a secondary hypothesis, which is to open higher, pull back down, and then push higher into the 2099, and then resume yesterday's movement. Yesterday was the first day in a while where we've stopped or 2 days ago, we stopped the one-time framing up. But we resumed that yesterday, so I'm looking for this to show strength. But we do have a little bit of repair to do beneath us down into that 2089.50 area. So this morning, it's opening in a gap zone. If it stays here, good incentive for both long-term buyers, long-term sellers to be active here. This would suggest a pretty choppy open, maybe a couple of wide swings. So overall, this morning I would expect that we would sit on our hands and see which side is prevalent. But I do believe that we will get the move up initially, as we have over the last few weeks. Get the move up initially into the 2099 area, and then I'm looking for it to fizzle, roll over, and pull back down into the 89.50 and 89 and test that overnight low. That's my primary hypothesis, or the main trade, or the big trade of the day, the key trade of the day that I'll be looking for. Ideally, for day traders, ideally it tests 2099 and is not able to find buyers to bring it back up through, and that would set up a strong selling down through the 2085, 2083 area. That would be nice. We still have our MCV down below from this area back here before we broke out. We still have it carrying forward, so that would be the biggest target down below, but I don't think we're going to get that today. It's about 20 points away. Anyway, we've resumed our uptrend, so expect it to be slow and sluggish and so on. Euro Stoxx, for those who still trade it, Euro Stoxx tested that 3703 to 3700 as I talked about yesterday. An inside day balanced. A weak high yesterday. Really expected this to be taken out at some point in the session or today, but what it has done instead, again on that Greek news, is to push lower. Target now for the Euro Stoxx 3640 down here, 3642. It looks like it's moving out of this CLVN and into the HVN zone below. So we're looking at 3640 and 3630 as key targets for the Euro Stoxx over the next few days. We'll see how that plays out. The crude finally broke out and through. I talked about, I think it was last week, I talked about the crude having completed its impulsive move down, and that it looks like it's moving into a corrective cycle. So here's an image of it. This is actually kind of a beauty. We have an impulsive move down in crude right here as it drops from October down, and then it pulls back into 56.73 or so on this contract, and then we have our continuation or extension move. So we pushed that low down to 44.03, and then last week I said that this looks like it is corrective. It looks like it's likely to correct here, and I was anticipating a test of 55.09, which we got yesterday. We pushed through 55.09 with fever. It really blew right through that. But that's the expected target based on this triangle here. There's a second triangle that has formed, so we have a second target, but I won't discuss that yet. And since then, it has pulled back. So this corrective move is taking place. Yesterday, 56.69 came up 3 ticks short of the 56.73 high here. We have a weak high, multiple weak highs in this area between 56.60 and 56 73. So looking for a small pullback, and I believe it pulled back to, let's see, where did it pull back to? 55.07. Two ticks through that 55.09 target, and has turned around, is trading 55.73 currently. So expecting it to kind of slosh around today, not expecting too much out of crude today. It did have a big day yesterday, and it's likely to rest, but I expect continuation higher. 58 is the next target. That's all I have for you. I'm going to get cut off here in a second. Good luck today, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.